Have you ever laid awake at 2 a.m., your body completely drained, your eyes burning, but your brain is wide open, replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, word by word, searching for what you should have said differently? You weren't choosing to do that. You couldn't stop it, even if you tried. And here's what no one tells you. That relentless loop running inside your head is not a sign of weakness. It's not anxiety. It's not overthinking. In the way people casually throw that word around, what's actually happening inside your mind is something far deeper, far darker, and far more fascinating than most people will ever understand. Your brain has been chemically hijacked, and it's been using your own intelligence against you. Psychologists call it maladaptive rumination, but that clinical term doesn't even come close to capturing what it actually feels like to live inside a mind that never, ever powers down. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for analysis, planning, and self-reflection, stays switched on even when you're supposed to be resting. And your brain's default mode network, think of it as a background engine that never shuts off, keeps generating an endless internal monologue. Thoughts about the past, fears about the future, conversations that haven't happened yet, scenarios that may never come. Your mind is always online, always auditing, always preparing for a threat that hasn't arrived. And here's where it gets truly disturbing. You might think you're solving something when you replay those moments. You might feel like all that mental energy is productive, like you're getting closer to an answer, but you're not. There's actually a name for this feeling. Psychologists call it the illusion of mental progress. And it's one of the cruelest tricks the brain can play on itself. Here's what's actually happening. When you agonize over a problem, when you run through every worst-case scenario, every possible outcome, every way something could go wrong, your brain releases small amounts of dopamine, a chemical reward, not for solving the problem, just for thinking about it, just for spiraling. Your own neurochemistry is addicted to the loop. The brain gets a tiny hit of dopamine for agonizing, so it keeps agonizing. It mistakes motion for progress. It mistakes suffering for safety. And that's why telling someone who overthinks to just stop thinking is not just unhelpful, it's neurologically naive. You're asking someone to override a chemical addiction with willpower alone. But why did your brain learn to work this way in the first place? This is the part that might hit differently. For many people, overthinking didn't start in adulthood. It started in childhood, in the rooms they grew up in the households that shaped them before they had the words to describe what was happening. If you grew up in an environment where moods shifted without warning, where a good morning could turn terrifying by afternoon, where small mistakes were met with consequences that felt crushing and unpredictable, your young brain did what any brilliant, adaptive system would do. It learned to anticipate everything. It learned that the only way to stay safe was to stay one step ahead, to read the room before walking into it, to prepare for every possible outcome, so nothing could catch you off guard. Overthinking wasn't a flaw that developed over time. It was a survival strategy. It was your nervous system intelligent, responsive, doing its absolute best learning to stay perpetually alert. Because the world didn't feel safe enough to let its guard down. That pattern didn't disappear when you left that environment. It followed you. It moved into every relationship, every workplace, every quiet Sunday morning that should have felt peaceful, but somehow didn't. And now there's one more layer to this one that researchers discovered, and that most people never hear about. A 2013 study published in Psychological Science found something striking about people who experience high levels of rumination. They score significantly higher in cognitive empathy, which means overthinkers aren't just stuck in their own heads. They are acutely, almost painfully aware of the emotional world around them. They feel how a word lands before they've finished saying it. They sense the shift in someone's energy before anyone else in the room has noticed. They carry the unspoken weight of the people they love, often without being asked, often without being thanked. The very thing that exhausts you is also what makes you extraordinary. But here's the crushing truth of it. That perceptiveness, that heightened emotional radar never comes with an off switch. You notice everything. You feel everything. And because your brain was trained to prepare and protect, it never quite gets to resolution. You live in what researchers describe as perception without resolution. Aware of everything, clear on nothing, exhausted by a world that keeps moving, while your mind is still processing 3 conversations ago. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not too sensitive. Or too in your head. You are someone whose nervous system learned in a very real, very physiological way that it had to stay alert to survive. And that system has been doing exactly what it was trained to do every single day, without rest. The path forward isn't about forcing your mind to go quiet. You can't bully a nervous system into peace. The shift happens when you slowly, gently, begin to teach it something it never learned, that it is finally safe enough to rest, that the threat has passed, that you made it through. Not every thought needs to be solved. Not every silence needs to be filled with analysis. Some things need to be felt, decided, or simply released. Your mind has been your protector for a long time. Maybe it's time to let it become your home instead. If this reached something in you, something you've never quite seen put into words before, drop a comment below. Tell me what part hit hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep going deeper into the psychology of the human mind, subscribe, because there's so much more to uncover.